Have you ever had a conversation where you just didn't know what to say? Do you want to have longer conversations in English? Well, keep on watching because in this video, I'll be giving you 5 tips to have more interesting and longer conversations. Hi friends, Dr. B here, the ESL doctor. I have been helping students learn English for almost 20 years. So on this channel, I'll be making videos with English lessons and tips so you can improve your English and connect to your world. If that sounds good to you, please consider subscribing below. Before we get started with the tips, I wanted to give a general reminder, and that's to work on improving your listening. The better you're listening, the better you're speaking. And the old phrase says, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen twice as much as we speak. A lot of the conversations you'll be having are informal, so you'll hear a lot of slang, idioms, and phrasal verbs. So the better you're listening, the more you'll be able to participate in these conversations. So today's tips are really going to focus on listening and responding, and that will help you to have longer conversations and more interesting ones. Let's get into the tips. Tip 1 is echo questions. Echo questions echo or repeat what the speaker is saying. It shows that you're paying attention and interested in what your partner is saying. For echo questions, it's important to know that these only apply to affirmative sentences or positive statements. First of all, if the original statement has a be verb, you're going to need to repeat that. So for example, is, are, was, or were. Next, if the original statement has an auxiliary verb, like has, have, will, can, or something else, you need to repeat that. Finally, if there is no be verb and no other auxiliary verb, you need to use a form of do. Do, does, or did. And lastly, you're going to repeat the subject pronoun for the original sentence. So if the subject of the original sentence is my teacher, the subject pronoun could be he or she, depending on the gender of the teacher. Keep in mind that if the original statement is I, you'll need to change that to you. All right, let's now look at some examples. My mother is in the hospital. The correct echo question for this statement is she? We repeat the be verb, in this case, is, and we need to change the subject pronoun. So the original subject of the sentence is my mother, and because it's a woman, we need to use the subject pronoun she. The correct echo question is she? Let's try another. I can speak 3 languages. The correct echo question here is can you? Once again, repeat the auxiliary verb can, and while the subject of the original sentence is I, we need to change this to you because we are responding to a speaker. Now keep in mind, echo questions are questions. And like other questions, our voice's intonation needs to rise at the end of the question. So once again, my mother is in the hospital. Is she? I can speak 3 languages. Can you? Okay, pause the video now. I want you to take a look at the screen and try to make the correct echo questions for the statements that you see. Okay. The correct answers for your echo questions are, is he? Has she? Did they? Do you? In the first example, we have the subject, my brother, and we have the present continuous verb, is working. So we need to repeat the be verb, is, and we change to the subject pronoun he for my brother. Is he? In our second example, we have the present perfect tense. So we use the auxiliary verb has. and we repeat the subject pronoun she. Has she? In the third example, we do not have any be verb and we don't have any auxiliary verb. So we need to use a form of the verb do. Since the verb is in the simple past, we'll use did. And of course, we repeat the subject pronoun they. Did they? In the last sentence, we do not have any be verb or auxiliary verb. So once again, we need to use a form of the verb do. Since the sentence is in the simple present, we're going to repeat do, and we're going to change the original subject of I to you. So the echo question here is do you? So now that we've mastered echo questions, let's move on to tip number 2, which is echo words. Now, echo words are similar to echo questions because you're going to echo or repeat keywords that your conversation partner has said. And depending on the keywords that you choose, you can redirect the conversation to something that you're more interested in talking about. And since you're repeating keywords that your conversation partner has said, it shows that you're paying attention and that you're interested. So it's a really great technique and it's super easy to use. All right, so now let's take a look at echo words in action. So for example, if my conversation partner says something like, I traveled around Southeast Asia for 6 months. This sentence has 2 different keywords that I can focus on. If I choose Southeast Asia, then maybe I'm more interested in where my partner has been and what activities he took part in while he was traveling. If I focus on the duration, 6 months, maybe I'm showing my partner my surprise, and maybe I want to know how he managed to survive traveling for 6 months. So here we can direct the conversation to something I'm more interested in talking about. Now keep in mind, with echo words, you're going to raise your intonation at the end. If I said Southeast Asia, it's a question. If I say 6 months, it's surprise. And so in both cases, your intonation is going to rise at the end. Let's take a look at some examples below. So echo words are a really great and easy way to show your partner that you're interested and that you're paying attention to what they're saying. And that brings us to tip number 3, which are phrases to show agreement or attention. So as we mentioned before, it's really important to show the person that you're speaking with that you're interested in talking with them. That way, they'll talk to you more and you'll get to practice your English more. Interestingly enough, the more that you show interest in someone else, the more interesting you become. So now we'll look at some techniques to really show our interest in other people and also to show that we're paying attention. So some phrases to show interest are, wow, how interesting. Really? I see. Phrases to show agreement are, sure, uh-huh, I see, that sounds right. Now, I recommend that you keep a couple of these phrases in your back pocket and use them throughout your conversation to really show to your partner that you're interested in them and that you want to continue speaking. Okay, so now let's talk about tip number 4, which is asking follow-up questions. One of our main goals today is to have longer conversations in English. To have a longer conversation, you need to keep your conversation partner talking. And the best way to do that is to ask follow-up questions. People love talking about themselves, so the more questions you ask, the more interesting you'll seem. And people will enjoy talking to you because it'll seem like you're really interested in what they have to say. So really use your follow-up questions to show that you're paying attention and that you want to continue talking with your conversation partner. So here's an example of a follow-up question. If my conversation partner says something like, I went to the hospital yesterday, there's a lot of follow-up questions we can ask. What hospital did you go to? Why did you go to the hospital? How long were you in the hospital? So these follow-up questions really show our conversation partner that we're paying attention, we're interested, and it keeps them talking. Now keep in mind, when you use follow-up questions, you need to use them with another strategy that we learned about. Otherwise, it'll sound like you're investigating or that you're a detective and nobody wants to be interrogated. Tip number 5 is to put all of the strategies we've talked about together. This way, we can have a really balanced conversation and we can really show our partners that we want to talk to them and that we're interested in what they have to say. So I'd like you to pause your video right now and take a look at some of the examples that we have and try to identify the different strategies that are being used in each of the conversations. So in the first example, we have an echo word, a phrase to show agreement or attention, and a follow-up question. In the second example, we have an echo question and a follow-up question. In the third example, we have an echo question, a phrase to show agreement and attention, and a follow-up question. Check out the description box below for some bonus content and extra listening practice for you to identify some of the strategies we learned about today. And if you liked today's video, please consider subscribing, because in the next video, I'll be giving you some tips on how to speak more fluently and be more concise for the Cambridge, TOEFL, and IELTS exams. See you next time.